So first we're going to start off by tracing around the base of the building. It's a pretty important first step to get started. I usually like to keep things pretty free form. Then I'm going to take my trusty jigsaw, cut around the shape we just traced out. Again, this is just a rough guide. Don't really have to follow it exactly. It's important to make sure you're cutting an organic shape, especially when basing a solid structure like this. I think having it on a more organic base really helps to sell its placement on a gaming table. We threw it on the router table afterwards. I got Connor to just do a little bit of a round over on the edges. This really helps to just smooth the transition before you start sanding it. You could route it with a much harsher angle, but this is just what we had on the router at the time and it worked fine. Then we throw on some 120 grit sandpaper and kind of just attack it, really. Go over all the edges, sanding off the burrs that the router table made. This is just 1/4 inch MDF as well. You can get this from any hardware store. Give it a really good sanding. Now it's time to apply some glue and some sand. This is just PVA glue, nothing fancy. Make sure you're getting right up to the edge of the building that you've traced out, making sure to be fairly neat about it. I like to put on a thick coat of PVA as well. Really helps the sand to bind to the base. MDF can warp pretty bad, and the more water you put in there, the more moisture you're adding, and then you'll have problems down the line. I just use a basic bag of sand that I got at Home Depot. I think it's just like builder's grade sand, I don't know. And then I go over that with sanded grout in a dark brown color. I got this one from Home Depot and it comes in all sorts of different colors. It was kind of a warm day, so we just put the base in front of a fan. If you're working to a bit of a time crunch, sometimes a fan, I find, is more effective than letting it sit in the sun. So now we need to start painting the model kit. I usually start with a base coat. I'm just using some Tamiya model color spray paint in a basic brown color. The kit already is brown, the MDF is brown, so I'm not really worrying about giving it a full coating. It's more just uneven dusting. It really just helps to break up the uniformity of the shape. Then I'm going to get a rough bristled brush and some Monument cream paint and just start streaking in the wood grain. This is a pretty important step. It adds a lot of texture to the piece and it really helps to sell that it is a wood floorboard. I find this is one of the more enjoyable steps as well. Just take your time, make sure the paint is dry, just start brushing over. It's more of an over brushing than a dry brushing, really just kind of helping to add some texture. Now we're going to do a similar step to the outside boards. We're going to load up some black brown from Monument on the brush, and we're just going to kind of brush over the edges And the idea is we're trying to create a sort of like a weathered cladding effect on the building. Also just kind of stippling some paint on, and just generally trying to make it look like a weathered old house. You can also get in on the edges, around the bottoms of the walls as well, where a lot of dirt and grime, and then along the edges of the windowsills as well, where you're going to get a lot of contact and people will brush up against as well. You pretty much just move through each item one at a time. Definitely try and be random and varied about your approach to this. It also helps you could test it on a couple of pieces of scrap as well. And I haven't done any base coating. This is just the pre-paint with the effect applied over the top. And then now we're going to paint in some of the bricks on the basement layer for this building. This is the step that can kind of really help to enhance the pre-paint on this kit a lot. I'm just diluting the paint, painting some on, and then rubbing it off with my finger, just to help break up the uniformity of the color, and to kind of weather it and sort of dull it down a little bit. Now it's time to weather the inside walls. This is just some GW Agrax Earthshade in an airbrush, and I'm really just focusing on the bottoms and the tops of the walls, and then I'm streaking downwards. I'm applying pretty even pressure, pretty even paint flow as I go, and again just trying to vary the lines that we create there. This is one of my more favorite effects. You'll see me use this a lot on the inside and outside of the building, and it really helps to sell that this is an old, rain-soaked, streaked house. I love it. I think it looks really good. And again, I'm just working up and down across each piece as I go, and really kind of focusing on the edges of the windows, and anywhere that walls will contact other walls. And I think it looks great. It's time to cut the roof shingles. I had Connor draw up some little shingles that we were going to cut out of card. I know that this is a bit of a cop-out. We're using a large laser cutter to do this, but the effect could easily be achieved with cutting up card yourself, or this is something you could source. I pre-sprayed them on one side with some dark grey paint, and I'm just going to apply them with some PVA glue. Took my time working my way up each layer, trying to keep it a little bit random. This is an old house after all, so you don't have to be too neat about it. This effect works really great because it really enhances the roofline of this building as well. And then just make sure you trim off the excess, keep it nice and neat. I'm also going to use the same spray paint on the base to paint the front veranda pieces. This time though, I'm just going to press down lightly on the spray paint head, and it's going to cause the paint to sputter a little bit. Now it's my favorite part. It's time to start the scenic. We just apply an even coating of PVA glue on the base, create a bit of a random effect. This is some Scenic Express flock, and we just sprinkle this first layer over. Applying scenic, you have to think about in the same way that you would painting. and that's to build things up in layers. I usually start with this even tone, and then I'll go in after it's tacked up a little bit with a lighter grass color. This is just a standard 2mm static grass, and I'll work my way around just adding that as kind of the second layer. Make sure you always shake off all the excess, and you can save that as well for later use. I gave both the stairs a coat of textured concrete paint. Let that dry. It usually takes a while to dry. And then we glued those on to the base and attached them to the basement piece. Now it's time to add the bushes and the extra details. So this is polyfiber. The difference is that it has static grass weaved into it. I use this stuff a lot. Let me just go around. Make sure you put a lot of glue down. It needs a bit of glue to grab to. I pull it apart and just work my way around the base of the building, kind of teasing it out as I go. Very front of the house, I'm going to put some bushes in. This is a mix of a few different products. I put that just straight over the top of the polyfiber, and I find that it's a really good layered look. And if you use enough glue, it's not going to go anywhere. So we're not quite done there. Now we're going to add some dead and darker leaves to the top. We're just going to go around, sprinkle it over, make sure you brush it off of the stairs, give it that sort of autumn fall look, and then we're going to go over the top of it with more of the light green to finish it off. Time to assemble the building. So we're going to go around, basic CA glue, super glue. We're just going to start putting the walls in. They've already been painted. Use some of your accelerator to kick it off. You also can use white glue, PVA glue for this step. I much prefer super glue because I'm always in a bit of a time crunch, and I find it's sufficient for what I need. If you want a stronger bond, use some white glue, maybe some wood glue, but just be careful with the glue showing too much. Go around, put the windows in. You'll notice I haven't really put any paint on the windows. I was more than happy with the color that they came with. I think it looks fine, the type of building that I'm making. Put the trim on as well next. Again, this is something that you could paint a different color if you wanted to, but I just kept it the white that it comes. And now we're going to do the similar step with our airbrush. We're going to use a black, and we're going to go around and do some weathering and some shading around all the bottoms and the edges. The idea of this step is you want it to be selling itself as a three-dimensional weathered piece. And this really is the step that I find makes everything sing. You go through and add the streaking, add all the grime, and it really helps to make that underpainting layer pop a lot. As you can see here, it really starts to sell as like an old, decrepit building. All right, now that we've done the outside weathering, now we're going to weather the little front roof tiles a little bit. This is a product I haven't really messed with a lot. It's kind of still new to me, but I wanted to test it out. I've seen a lot of people use it. I've not been able to replicate the effects that I've seen online, but I still think it looks pretty cool. I just put it on straight without any dilution at all. And then as it dries, it creates a sort of wet, mossy, damp effect. I think it looks all right, but I need to do a little bit more messing around with it. let's do some detailing. I went to the warehouse, stole myself a gourd reaper. You could 3D print some pumpkins for sure, but hey, might as well take advantage of the products we make, right? I just cut off the little sprue pieces. The casts were pretty clean, so they didn't really need any other additional cleanup at all. And then I just hit them with some cream and then some orange spray paint. Super straightforward. And then we're going to give them a little bit of additional paintwork. I also have the door piece there as well. The first step is just a simple highlight. Again, I'm not trying to do anything fancy with the paintwork for these. It's mostly just giving them a little bit of additional highlighting to make them pop. I went around and did that to all of the different shapes. And then we painted the stem with some Monument Shadow Flesh. I didn't really go for a super dark color. In hindsight, I actually think it would have been cooler if I'd done a dark brown, but you know, maybe they're fake pumpkins. And then we're going to wash everything with some Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to start with the door. I just did the front door for this kit as an example, but I think you would probably want to go around and do all of the internal doors and the rear door and all of that. And I'm simply just washing this on. Super straightforward, nothing fancy. Then we're going to wash all the pumpkins as well. I actually had to get some tweezers for this step because it was kind of messy. Make sure you get into all the eyes and the teeth as well. Make them stand out. We'll put the door in. You just put some glue on the top hinge and then slide it in, and then the door can open and close. Super simple. We attached the pumpkins to the front with some CA glue. Initially, I was going to put them all on the stairs, but I opted to put one up on the front railing. I think that's kind of a nice touch, and then I put one down in the bushes as well. And that's it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the first episode of Terrain School as much as I had making it. This was a blast. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Drop a comment down below of what you want to see next.